All right, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for Tuesday, June 13th, in the City of Desert Hot Springs. Maybe we have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Alleman?
Present.
Commissioner Stover?
Present.
Commissioner Wagstaff?
Present.
Vice Chair Nindell?
Present.
And Chairman Voss is absent.
All right. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We need to approve the minutes as presented. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chair, if we can do the approval of the agenda first.
Sorry, approval of the agenda. Okay. See, we just asked about that. All right. Does anyone want to make a motion for approval of the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda for tonight.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do we need a voice vote?
Yes. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Now the minutes. Approving minutes as presented or as corrected. Someone want to take a motion?
Sure, I move that we approve the minutes from the May 9th meeting.
All right.
A second.
All right. Very good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Our first action tonight is a conditional use permit number 23-3, an application for a type 48 alcohol license to sell beer and wine for consumption on or off the premises where sold at 66240 Pearson Boulevard, APN 639-232-050. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The project site is located at 66240 Pearson Boulevard as shown here and is within the Commercial General Zoning District. The applicant has submitted a conditional use permit for a Type 48 ABC license which authorizes the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises where sold. Minors are not allowed to enter and remain, and food service is not required. Shown here is a proposed floor plan which indicates where the alcohol will be stored and sold. Here are some of the elevations of the existing site, the south elevation and the east elevation. And pursuant to Section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act, staff has found the project to be exempt from environmental review as a Class 1 existing facilities. With that, this is for consideration of conditional use permit number 23-3 for a Type 48 ABC license which authorizes the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises where sold, located at 66240 Pearson Boulevard, subject to the conditions of approval and findings for APN 639-232-050. That concludes my report. I'm available if you have any questions, and the applicant is not here. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions of staff by the Planning Commission? No questions? I just have one question. The building right now has bars all across the front of it. Will they remain?
No, the bars will be removed.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay. Let's open the public hearing. Do we have any testimony from the applicant? It looks like no. Do we have any testimony in favor, opposed, or in a neutral position? No. Okay. And no need for rebuttal by the applicant. So I will close the public hearing. Planning Commission discussion and consideration for the Planning Commission to approve conditional use permit. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss? No?
Sure, I just want to make a comment. I think this could be a really nice benefit to our communities. So anyways, I think it looks nice. The project looks good.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve for Planning Commission to approve the conditional use permit number 23-3 to authorize a type 48 ABC license located at 66240 Pearson Boulevard.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
May we have a voice vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, our next action, second action, is recommendations to the City Council amending various chapters of Title 17 zoning code, including Chapter 17.04 general provisions. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission. I'm going to give a little bit of background. I know you've seen these slides a couple times, but just for the benefit of the audience at home, kind of the reason why we're going through this exercise is the city did receive a grant from California Department of Housing and Community Development to assist in the streamlining and processing of approvals of housing projects. As part of that, we had to update our general plan, housing element, and then also the zoning code, which is why we're going through this process now. While doing so, we wanted to clarify language in the chapters. It's ambiguous or contradictory, perform internal consistency checks across all chapters, and a consistency check with the general plan and the recently adopted housing element. So that being said, the only chapter that we have for you this evening is general provisions. And I'll start out by saying general provisions chapter is mostly definitions. How we define uses is very important, as when we examine their appropriateness in locations throughout the city and the development requirements. So I'm reminded of a law school question. Is a hot dog a sandwich? And the response is define a sandwich. And if you define a sandwich as a filling between two pieces of bread or a sliced roll, then a hot dog is a sandwich. If you define it differently, it may not be. So that's why we're here. We're trying to define what the sandwiches are. Also wanted to say on the offset, there's no way that today we can predict every land use that may evolve in the future. So new commercial uses, new forms of recreation, new types of building are constantly changing and continually evolving with changes in technology and economics and demographics and so on. So it's impossible now to define every use as foreseeable in the future. And the example I have is the axe throwing as a commercial recreational use. That was not a thing 5 years ago when we were writing codes, but now it's pretty popular. And so to accommodate these unforeseen uses in the future, this chapter does have a similar use determination in which the director can find a proposed use is similar to one listed with appropriate findings. So that sort of takes care of some of the possible uses in the future we're not foreseeing now. So that being said, where we've started is we've added definitions in the general provisions for cosmetology services. This is meant to be kind of an all-encompassing definitions for services that may offer, haircuts, nails, kind of the full gamut. Right now they're sort of separate. We wanted a holistic entry in the use table for that. Employee housing, this is a state requirement that we have to add to our definitions. Event facility or venue, we're getting several inquiries for this type of business in the city, and we want to get ahead of it, be prepared. Food truck and food truck park ancillary. The City Council did pass an ordinance allowing food trucks, and so now we're going to be working to establish the appropriate locations and the regulations behind those, and a definition for front yard. We also added additional activities under commercial recreation, including axe throwing, But some of the new ones that have evolved are pickleball and a few others in recent years. And then at the very end, we updated the list of land use districts to be consistent with our updated general plan and our updated zoning map. So those two documents were updated before the zoning ordinance, and now we're going back and making sure everything is in sync. And we also had some minor language changes. So this evening, we're not recommending any action on the permitted land use tables until we've reviewed each of the zoning districts. So there's a reason why we're bringing this before you tonight, even though there's no action, and that is for you to get familiar with the definitions, try to understand them. If you feel they need to be added to or modified, we can do that throughout our process of reviewing the permitted use tables and establishing the regulations around a particular use. But the point is just to get familiar at this time with those definitions. One thing I wanted to mention as we go through the permitted use tables is the different categories, so you can start thinking about this now. So permitted use signified by P, this is a use permitted by right within a zone with no conditions usually. There may be some regulations in ordinance, but it's not a formal conditional process. Usually this applies to existing development. And in such cases, the applicant usually just needs to apply for a business license and a certificate of occupancy, and it's a use allowed by right. Administrative use is a step above that, so this is a discretionary review at the staff level, whereby the use is approved in the zone, but with conditions to mitigate any impacts. And then one level above that is your review as the planning commission, where you're reviewing a use in a particular zone and adding any appropriate conditions. And then if it's got a dash in the table, that means it's not permitted within the zone. So as we go forward and look at these permitted use tables in each of the zoning districts, you'll see this matrix with these identifiers in them. Other thing I wanted to mention is sometimes a use is permitted in a zone, but it's a brand new ground up development. So even though it's permitted in that zone, this is a new development, and in the city's code, it would go through a development permit process, and that would come before you. Or an expansion above 20% of the square feet. So you remember when we looked at the previous chapters, we had to define what minor was because it wasn't defined. And so now that's defined at 20% of square footage, of the existing square footage of the structure. Some of these may also include a CUP or AUP as part of the review process. Design review, this is usually for architecture and landscape architecture. In instances where the development has already has an overall approval or entitlement. So one example could be specific plan developments where the overall land area has been planned, but then the proposal was to come back and go through design review for a particular parcel or particular portion of the development. For example, Coachella. And then another example is a residential tracts development like Skyborn out on the west side, where the overall development subdivision in that sense has been approved. But when a new builder comes in, they will come before you and say, these are the types of houses we want to build in the area. So those are kind of two nuances for it. And that concludes my report. I did want to mention that we did receive a letter from Mr. Voss, the chair. And he had only one recommendation, and that was to remove tattoo shops from the restricted use and put into the general uses, which would now have a more, I think he meant cosmetology, tanning, etc. Tattooing today is not the belief it was yesteryear and is used as well in cosmetic services such as lip outlining, eyebrows, eyeliner, skin spots, and other location in the cosmetic category. The licenses by the health department is strict, and shops today have a higher regard for being clean, safe, and not a den of problems. There's enough zoning items such as upkeep, hours of operation, signage, noise, loitering, etc., that can address any nuisance item, if any, these days. So I'm hearing those types of comments about tattoo parlors or tattoo shops from several folks. Right now, they are in the restricted category. Usually what that means is it goes through at least a AUP process at the staff level, but it could be a CU process at the Planning Commission level. Many of those that are in that category potentially have impacts, especially when clustered together. So, one example in tattoo parlors, in 29 Palms, we did have a situation where we had 3 in a row. So those are kind of the things that you want to think about when you talk about the level of restrictions that we would put on a particular land use. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, I just have one comment that sort of builds on what Chairman Voss talked about. When you read personal services restricted, it says this means personal services with characteristics that have the potential to adversely impact surrounding areas. And I'm wondering, how do psychic services
I have the same question.
adversely impact surrounding?
Right.
I'm just wondering if you want to reword that definition maybe, or think differently about what is considered restricted.
Right. We were pulling from the existing code, so this is the language that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. These types of uses don't tend to be loud.
Fortune telling.
Cause
and
problems,
reading.
yeah.
I would agree with Chairman Voss on tattoo parlors as well.
I would agree with both of you guys, with Voss and Nindal, because I had the same question about card reading and tarot cards. I was thinking or psychics. I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great to go to the bar and then walk down the street and get a tattoo and go to the psychic and get your nails done? And I mean, that sounds like a really good time to me, so I don't think we should restrict it.
I think it's the definition. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Actually, maybe one thing.
We talked earlier just about little language issues, and I'm sure that we don't need to go over that stuff again, right?
Yeah, so one comment was including the word cannabis or cannabis into the various definitions that currently say marijuana, and so we've already noted that. We can include that.
So we don't have to go over that.
No.
Okay, so we still need to open the public hearing and take testimony for those in favor, opposed, or in a neutral position. Anyone? No. Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing. Planning Commission discussion? Any last discussion? Any questions, concerns? No? Okay. And the last is to defer action on a recommendation to the City Council amending Chapter 17.04 until such time as the permitted uses tables are reviewed for each zoning district. When do you think that will be?
Once we have gone through all the land use tables for all the different zones. So
A while.
we're pushing to get things done by early August. There's a lot in front of us. As you know, we have some big ones coming up, including parking and residential and commercial, but that's still the goal.
Okay. Well, I guess we have nothing else to do with this action. Public comments? We don't have any public comments, I assume. Chair and Planning Commission member reports. Does anyone have anything to say? Report on? No?
Oh. I don't
No? Okay. Community Development Director report.
So I have another update on ADUs. I know I've talked about it for the last 3 meetings, but at the council meeting last week, they approved a waiver of the local impact fees for ADUs. State law had already required that we waive those fees for any ADU under 750 square feet. And the City Council action basically applied that waiver to all ADUs regardless of size. So we're now in the process of actually rolling out the ADU workshops. We will hold 2 of them, one in English and one in Spanish to start off with. I don't want to give you firm dates yet because we're still trying to finalize everything and translate everything and all that, but it's imminent. It's coming really soon. And would just say that we're getting a ton of interest from the public in these pre-approved ADU plans. And with the waiver for the impact fees, it should make it even more appealing for homeowners that want to build an ADU on their property. That's all I have.
I remembered my question. Is it out of order for me to ask a question?
I just noticed that last time we didn't approve minutes, and I'm wondering if we're all caught up on approving minutes or if we missed one somewhere.
At the last meeting, that was a special meeting, and typically minutes don't get presented at special meetings. But yes, we are caught up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anyone else? And I adjourn the meeting.